Hey, what's going on, DDO players? Axel here. So today I want to talk again about the Radiant Servant changes that are coming in Update 50. So if you didn't see it, about a week or two ago, I made a video going over all the Radiant Servant tree buffs for clerics. In this video, I have some updates to go over, so the developers have chimed in and given us some updates based on feedback. So let's go ahead and start talking about that. I will link my previous video below because I'm not going to go over all the changes. I'm just going to go over the things that they have tweaked or any updates that they've made after feedback. So if you want to see, the everything, then go watch my last video. I'll link it below. But let's go ahead and get started and talk about the things that they've changed. So this is what Steel Star, the developer, had to say. Hey, a quick update here, as you're likely to see this pass on Lamania pretty soon. We've made a couple of tweaks and additional fixes to Radiant Servant. So, change number 1. We've rearranged parts of this tree positionally just to make more thematic sense with the new enhancements involved. Okay, that's fine. Nothing to say there. That's just a cosmetic design of the tree. There's nothing else to say. Divine Aid is now 3% positive spell critical damage and found in Tier 1, Tier 3, and Tier 4. Okay, so before it was just 2% and it was only found in 2 tiers. Now it's in 3 tiers and it's 3%. So that's interesting. Positive or spell critical damage for healing oftentimes isn't that important because you end up over healing anyways, but for clerics it's a little different because clerics have aura, and aura is actually really nice to get positive spell critical crits on your aura. I don't know how worth it'll be for the action points, but it's an option. Okay, next, the raised at SLA. So the raised at SLA, I spent quite a bit of time talking about in my last video on this subject, and it's something that pretty much everyone told the developers in feedback that it was not a good idea for a myriad of reasons that I'm not going to repeat. Watch my last video on that. But they've replaced the raised at SLA in Tier 5 with a mass resist energy SLA. And this is one of the things that was proposed by some other players in feedback, and they decided to go with it. So first thing to note, this is the mass resist energy SLA, the same one from Epic Destinies. So it grants a 35 resist to every element. So that's really nice, and you can get this as soon as level 12 on your cleric. So that's going to be really nice. If you're into heroic TRing, you're going to be able to get these mass resists really early. That's going to be pretty nice. In epics, I think it'll be less nice. I mean, still okay, but the thing with, I think if you really want a resistance to a specific element, it's really important, say in something like 2 out to handle where you need a bunch of fire resistance, you're probably going to be using an item that's stronger than this anyways. And keep in mind that these mass resists don't stack with, say, an item. So if you have an item with 50 fire resistance on it, you still only get 50. The 35 from this does not stack. So in game, I don't know, it's okay at in game, I guess, but I'm not super thrilled about this choice. I was hoping that they would go with a heal SLA or a resurrection SLA. I think both of those would have been great choices. I'm not really sure why they didn't want to go with those, but they didn't. I think they would have made a lot of sense, but they didn't. Let's continue on. So the fourth change, when you have mighty turning and attempt to turn an undead that is immune to death effects, it will now attempt to turn the creature. So that means that any creature that was death warded, you can now turn. So that's really great. I'm not super into turning, so I don't know how much of an effect this will have in the viability of turning, especially in epics. It's definitely nice. I mean, more monsters you can turn now, so that's great. I'm sure that charisma-based clerics will be really happy about that one. Okay, last change is martyrdom is now 1 rank, and it's 1 rank that does what the old rank 3 did. Who care? No one. It doesn't really matter. Martyrdom is one of those abilities that it's just a waste of action points because it's an effect that only triggers on death. I think martyrdom, if they wanted that to be a thing just for flavor, I think it's cool for flavor. If every time a cleric dies, it heals. I think that thematically it makes sense. Clerics being this divine creature or divine class. But I think that if they want it to be there for flavor, they should just plug it in, just add it to one of the cores, because that way we would get it inherently. We wouldn't have to waste additional points on it. I think they should do that instead, but they're not doing that. They just made it cheaper. Still doesn't matter that it's cheaper. Still not worth taking by anybody. He continues on and says, There were a lot of cool and interesting ideas in this thread, almost all of which are beyond the scope of what we can do in this small revamp. We may have time for further tweaks, but anything large will need to wait until we can spend more time on it in the future. Okay, so a couple things to say there. There were some abilities that they didn't touch that I wish they would touch. The number one thing I wish they would have touched is Radiant Servant Burst. I think it's too weak. I think it needs a buff, especially considering it has no range. I wish it would heal for more. It feels lacking. And for melee clerics especially, I think that would be really cool if that was something that was buffed more, but they didn't do that, which is too bad. A couple other things. So there are still a lot of abilities, particularly like things like martyrdom we've mentioned, bliss, divine healing. There's a lot of abilities that are still really weak in the tree. I wish they would have addressed this, but they're intending this to be a quick pass. And I think the thing that to keep in mind with that is I don't know when they'll get around to hitting this tree again, because they've said here that anything large will need to wait until we can spend more time on it in the future. But I think realistically, that's probably going to be several, like 2-3 years at best. They're probably going to put the Radiant Servant tree at the end of the line now when it comes to trees that need attention. I hope I'm wrong on that. I would love to be wrong on that, but I feel pessimistic in how quickly they'll actually get around to addressing some of the other things in the tree. So I guess, overall, I'm glad that Radiant Servant got buffs. I mean, I'll take it. That's awesome. But I do wish they would have done more. But I'll take what we got. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about it. Guys, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know what you think about these changes below. What you think, if you agree with me, disagree with me, all that. If you want to support this channel, you can support me on Patreon. I'll link that below. Also, I've been streaming on Twitch a lot at twitch.tv/AxelAlexK. If you want to stop by and say hi, I would appreciate that. So guys, yeah, that's going to be it for this video. See y'all next time. Have a good one. Take care.